Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Gail and this is Real Life and Keto. And it's been a while since I've actually done a video, and I've actually put off doing this video. Let me apologize. I've lost my voice. It's finally starting to come back, but it's been gone for a while now. For those of you who have been following me and are aware of the situation, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer in November, the day before Thanksgiving, on the 22nd of November. Unfortunately, my husband passed away on April 2nd at 9:30 at night. He was in the hospital. I was with him. I was holding his hand up until the end. And the last video I had posted was of him on his 50th birthday on March 7th, and he was very excited because he was able to walk again. The journey that we had been on since November with the diagnosis with cancer was very much up and down, very much one step forward, two steps back. In December, he had emergency back surgery. They told him he'd never walk again. He came out of the surgery and was able to move his feet, and he was walking later that next day with a walker, of course. And he came home after another couple of weeks or whatever it was, January. He came home like right after New Year's, and he was able to do rehab at home, and he was able to walk with a walker. He started losing his ability to walk about mid-January, but at the same time he was able finally to start another round of chemo, because his back blew up in December, 5 days into the first round of chemo, and he wasn't able to finish it due to the surgery. And then healing from the surgery, he wasn't able to do chemo. And when he was finally able to start chemo in mid-January, he started having neurological issues and started having trouble again. He ended up back in the hospital doing basically emergency radiation, because the tumor had grown back where the surgery had been and was pressing on his spinal cord again. We did 10 high doses of radiation. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks. He was able to come home, and he came home on a Wednesday, the week before his birthday. So it'd be the 31st or 30th or whatever it was. And forgive me if all the dates jumble together. But anyway, he came home at the beginning of March, and he was not able to walk. He was only able to move his legs with straps wrapped around them in order to transfer in and out of the wheelchair, in order to use the bathroom or get into bed or whatever. That was Wednesday we came home after the radiation was done. By early Sunday morning, he was able to move his feet. By the following Wednesday, which was March 7th, his birthday, he felt he could walk, and he walked. And we did the video, and he was super excited and very positive. My husband was very positive throughout all of it. Up until the very end, he was going to beat it. He really believed he was going to beat it, and he was going to live. Unfortunately, I had done enough research and enough knowing everything that he was actually battling against. I never countered his positivity. I always encouraged it, because it would do no good to be anything but positive. But we were not able to. He started having jaundice, and he started being really fatigued, and his stomach had started to swell up, and we weren't sure what it was swelling up with. His bilirubin was too high for him to start another round of chemo. They held off the Wednesday before he passed we went in to try to do chemo, and his bilirubin was too high, so they didn't want to do it. And we came home, and he still wanted to be positive, but he was experiencing some confusion at that point that our nurse practitioner that was heading up the oncology had noticed, and I had noticed. And so the decline was relatively fast. He was more sleepy, he was more tired, he slept more. It was only a couple of days, really. And it just continued. I kept hoping he would turn around, that if he just rested, he would feel better. By Monday morning, I called an ambulance to take him to the hospital because I couldn't keep him comfortable and he was highly confused. And so we got him to the hospital, and his breathing was very labored, and he was no longer communicative. He couldn't, he didn't really know what was going on, and he was pretty much sleeping continually. His oncologist came in, and the emergency room doctors came in, and they all agreed that he was in the active stage of passing. And so we just worked at keeping him comfortable. I called his family, and they were on their way. They were on their way up as fast as they could get. They lived 6.5 hours away. And his daughters were trying to figure out how to come up. His mom and his sister and his niece and his nephews were in Indiana. His daughters are in Illinois. And everybody was trying to figure out how to come up. My dad and my sister and my daughter came up and spent the day with him. And he'd been moved to the oncology floor, and they were keeping him comfortable. It was almost like at the beginning, when everything blew up initially with my husband, it was all back pain. And we had the hardest time getting ahead of the pain. Every time they'd up the dose, the pain would increase. So they'd have to up the dose again. And this was in the beginning, and this is how the end was, he was very uncomfortable, and they kept trying to get ahead of the pain. And you could tell he was uncomfortable. And so my dad was there, and my sister and my daughter, they stayed with me most of the day. And then I pretty much told them they could go home, and I'd keep them posted. And my dad stuck around until about 9 o'clock. We figured his mom and his sister and niece and nephews and brother-in-law would be there in about an hour. So my dad's like, why don't you try to nap a little bit? And so I sat in the recliner across from my husband, and his breathing was very labored. And I laid there, and I started noticing that the breathing was changing. So I got up and I moved to the chair next beside him, and I took his hand, and I started telling him that him and my mom could fly around the universe exploring. And he hadn't met my brother, but my brother was there too, and the three of them would probably have a lot of fun up in heaven, picking on people and joking and having a good time. And I promised him that I would be okay. And I started going down the list of all the people that loved him, and holding his hand and listening to his breathing change. And it was like listening to a clock wind down. And I just held his hand, and I kept talking to him. And at 9:30, he finally let go, and he left. And I waited a minute to make sure. And then I went and phoned the nurses. And then I called my dad. And he wasn't very far away. He just left in maybe 20 minutes. So he wasn't home. He turned around and came back. And his sister had texted me shortly after that, because I didn't know what to do. I mean, what do you do? They're driving up, they're almost here. And how do you tell them that he's gone? And his sister texted and said, we're on our way, we're half an hour away. We just got to check into the hotel so we don't lose our room. So I sent her a text and told her to call me. And when she called, I asked her who was driving, because I didn't want her to be the one driving. And her husband was driving. It's the worst thing to tell somebody else that someone you love, that they love, has passed. But he's not suffering anymore. And he's healed. It's the rest of us that are here. You know, we're the ones got to deal with all the daily stuff. One of the things I told him was that he was going to get to be a butterfly while the rest of us caterpillars crawled around over here. And that he could show me around when I got to the other side. He was such a positive person. And he always wanted to make other people happy and make them laugh and have a good time. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about him passing. We did have a few conversations, and he wanted me to be okay. And he wanted me to keep living and enjoy life. But he wasn't giving up until the end. He wasn't giving up. He wasn't letting go. And my dad said if he'd known that it was going to happen so fast, he wouldn't have left. And I said maybe it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't left. Maybe he was waiting for us to be alone. Who knows? But he was so far from perfect. Don't get me wrong. And he'd be the first one to tell you that he was not perfect. But he definitely had a positive attitude. And he enjoyed life. And that was the way he was. He talked to everybody and anybody. And even when he was in the hospital, the nurses and everybody enjoyed talking to him because he wasn't sitting there feeling sorry for himself that he was in the hospital or carrying on. You know, he just always kept it positive. And I'm going to carry that with me and continue to try to take life and give life a positive spin. It's the best we can do. It does no good to go through life feeling sorry for yourself or wondering why me, why not me. There's tons of people out there in the world who have things way worse. And if you can keep a positive attitude going through crap, then you set the example for other people to how they can keep a positive attitude when they go through crap. And I'm going to miss him terribly. You know, time goes by and I'm okay a lot of the time. And then it'll hit me. Because our relationship was one that we were both individuals. We'd both been single for so long that we both allowed each other to be who we were, which was what I loved about our relationship, is that we accepted each other for who we were. And that was what I wanted in a relationship, and that's what he wanted in a relationship, to be accepted, flaws and all, and just, it was okay. And you know, he would go and visit his family for a long weekend or whatever. So, you know, sometimes it's like he's not here, and in my mind it's like he's gone visiting somebody. And I'm trying to regroup and figure out moving forward by myself. And you know, the hard part was that we hadn't really recovered from losing my mom last March. And so for my husband to pass away the day after the 1-year anniversary of her funeral just made it, kind of brought it all back again. But I did joke that, you know, they're probably up there probably getting kicked out of heaven for fooling around too much, because they both like to have fun. So that's a good thing. But anyway, this is a lot longer than I mean, I had no idea how long it was going to be. But I'm going to keep on doing the best I can to honor my husband and my mom. They both loved life. The best thing you can do for people who passed away to honor them is to keep living and make the best of every single day you have. It's what you can do. If you really love them and you really honor them, they would not want you to be unhappy. So I will grieve, because that's part of it. But I will know that I promised him I would be okay. That's what he would want for me. He would never want me to be miserable. Never. So we'll keep on, and we'll find our way. One thing I do want to tell, if you've managed to stay this long in this video, we may not have been here today if my husband had taken note of some symptoms that he'd had years ago. When he had blood in his stool, if he had had it checked out years ago, before we even got together, maybe we would have caught this sooner. So please, if your body is giving you signs and symptoms of things that aren't right, don't write it off. Don't make excuses for it. Seriously, go see a doctor. Get it checked out. Do everything you can. You don't want to go through this, and you don't want to put anybody else through this. I don't blame my husband. He's just like the rest of us. Something happens weird with your body and you say, oh, it's something I ate, or it irritated something, or that food was too spicy, or whatever. I did this, I did that. That's what no. If it keeps happening, go to the doctor. Seriously. Get it checked out. Don't mess around with it. This isn't something anybody wants to go through. And this is not something you want to put your loved ones through. My husband would have never, never, never wanted to go through this or put me through this if he'd realized that maybe if he'd had it checked out, something would have been, we would have been able to catch it sooner. So take care of yourself. Seriously. Not just for yourself, but for the people who love you. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with hopefully a more cheerful video.